Hi everyone, I'm Janina Petrovskaia. Yet another session with a lawyer. Do any of you intend to do token offering in the future, just to assess the audience? Do you have any intention? I mean, I'm not a regulator, right? So raise your hand. And this is just an intention. So you have certain intentions for launching a token. The purpose of a presentation is actually to give you an overview so that you think twice whether you want really to launch a token under the new MiCA requirements. And if so, then you think really in advance about all of the requirements that you need to meet. How many of you have read MiCA with ChatGPT, have an overview about, okay, so not totally new to the subject, which is really great. Anyway, I could certainly this is not a legal advice. I would give you some kind of overview about all of the tokens which are covered under MiCA. This is an overview. These are all of the tokens which are covered, somehow regulated by MiCA or not. The purpose of the MiCA was, of course, to regulate primarily the e-money tokens and the asset reference tokens. And these are heavily regulated since the summer last year. And then there are all of the other crypto assets, including utility tokens, which we know from the era of ICO. How many of you were aware of ICO or did an ICO or? Okay, so also not new to the subject, which is just great. And then of course there are a bunch of tokens which do not fall under any of these categories, specifically NFTs, but attention, not calling a token non-fungible token doesn't really make it a non-fungible token. So you should be extremely careful to make sure that this one doesn't fall under the scope of MiCA and security tokens. All of the tokens that somehow promise investment and return most likely will be covered by MiFID. There will be most likely tokenized financial instruments. So this is an overview of what's covered under MiCA. And this is a quick checklist of choosing a jurisdiction, not only for blockchain projects, but in general, I would say we always start with target investors or target users. This might be basic for a lot of you, but I have seen so many projects approaching to us like, Switzerland is a crypto-friendly jurisdiction, let's do it from there. But where are your investors based? US or Singapore? Also, special legislation for blockchain projects is not so relevant anymore since we have MiCA, but then if you go to Europe, you know you're covered by MiCA anyway. Most likely if you approach solicit European investors, European users. If there is attraction of certain kind of projects that you would like to launch, what is the overall costs of running a business, including taxation and everything. I see it looks boring, but doing business in a proper way is normally quite boring thing. Economic and doing business condition and user experience of the projects which are already on site. All of these criteria are extremely important no matter what you do, launch an entire project or launch a token offering from a specific jurisdiction, from a specific country. So yeah, this was the overall goal of MiCA, to harmonize the regulation to protect the consumers. This is the timeline. It completely kicked in. It is already there from the summer, Title 3 and 4 in regard to e-money token, asset reference tokens from the 30th of December last year. Everything else in regard to COSP and also other crypto assets, which is the subject of today's presentation. We still have we still have some transition period to mention, which refers mainly to COSPs and which is regulated at a national level extremely, in an extremely different way, from 6 months to 18 months mainly, depending on the national legislation. These are the so-called benefits of MiCA, that we have a unified framework for whatever you do, issuing e-money tokens, arts, other crypto assets, utility tokens, or other tokens which fall under other crypto assets. For COSPs, of course, the main advantage is, or is supposed to be in theory, that you do get licensed once in one of the European Union countries, and then you're allowed to passport your services to other European countries where you're going to operate, which means the national regulator who has given a license to you is supposed to notify the regulators in other countries and ESMA that you are going to operate, and this is how it is supposed to work. But since the regulation is extremely new, there are lots of concerns how the services are going to work cross-border, even inside the EU. We're going to have unified register of marketplaces, exchange of information between the countries. So all good intentions. This is the overview regarding the transition period, which is mainly relevant for the COSPs. These are the definitions of the e-money tokens, but I guess this e-money tokens is what you guys call stable coins. It is not really a subject, but just to give you an overview, whenever you think of, like, we issue a stable coin, it used to be easier in the past. It is going to be heavily regulated. It is already heavily regulated because the level of license is the same as e-money license, which means it is a very, let's say, a game for institutional players, not for startups anymore, in my opinion. And the same would apply for asset reference tokens. What we suggest projects from time to time, for example, we recently helped a project which tokenized physical diamonds. I've supported a bunch of those projects before MiCA, and one quite recently. And since it was not specifically clear, because the diamonds are unique compared to a lot of other commodities which could be used to back asset reference tokens, we thought, okay, even if it falls under art, you can still use the exemption of 5 million within 12 months. Well, we are moving slowly to the utility tokens, to the subject of the presentation. This is all well known to you, since you've done already, or were thinking of doing utility token offerings, done ICOs, and these are all of the tokens which normally give somehow access to kind of services which are going to be provided in the future. And this should be seen really as a complex project, not only from a legal or from technical perspective. In my opinion, looking at dozens and dozens of token offerings, the most complicated part is even not the legal and the technical one, but rather the investors relation part. Selling those tokens to your audience, working on the community building and marketing, has been the most difficult part of the project. Yeah, that's why we put it on the top. Marketing and community building is the most important, and then all of the other things, including legal requirements, which on the one hand should be considered in advance, but on the other hand, this might sound controversial for you from a lawyer, are not, let's say, the key point in this project, because to write a white paper, even according to MiCA standards, to notify a regulator is not a rocket science, but to build community, to do proper investors relations, to have a product and a team which attracts investors, is much more complicated work than writing a white paper, even according to MiCA standards. So what are the possibilities? A lot of projects used to do not really a self-issuance in the past, but issuance via launchpad, because they have already let's say, standardized mainstreamed processes for pretty much everything, for all of the steps you need to do within a utility token offering. And it guides you through all of the steps, but then, of course, they take, in terms of revenues, no, not really revenues, but in terms of funds that you are going to raise, they could take quite a large percentage for what they do for you. And then control most of the processes that you do within the token launch, which has both advantages and disadvantages, so that you consider all the advantages and disadvantages of the options. But I believe most of the projects have gone for launch pads, at least from my observations, what I have seen so far. And we go to the amazing MiCA requirements for other crypto assets, including utility tokens. I'll walk you quickly through the content of the white paper, which you can apparently find online, or just ask ChatGPT about. This is definitely not a rocket science. That there is a general information about the issuer, the name, legal form, address, etc. One important thing to mention is the issuer doesn't necessarily have to be an entity in EU, but then there are a bunch of requirements to comply with EU law, which would make, let's say, exchanges which list those tokens or launch pads rather accept European entities from practical perspective. But this is not a legal and not a regulatory requirement. If you go through the requirements, how many of you are aware of financial instruments and prospectuses? Okay, yeah, that's colleagues, of course, yeah. To me, all of the white paper requirements, they look so much similar to what's written in the prospectuses, what's written in MiFID, what's written in EU prospectus regulation, in regard to all of the information about the issuer, detailed description about the asset itself, functionality, rights associated with this crypto assets, technical features, and then all of the risk factors as we know them from prospectuses, explaining all of the risk related to this specific token, project, markets, terms and conditions of the issuance, how the funds are going to be used, how the project is going to comply, how the token is going to be compliant with MiCA, language of it. That there are certain, in MiCA itself, in the annexes, there are certain wordings which should be used within the white paper. We have drafted already a bunch of white papers, and to me it looks like really it is like a prospectus, and on average it is a document of around 30 pages. It should be made publicly available. Good news are there are some exemptions which could be used, because I believe drafting a white paper and notifying the regulator and complying with all of the other requirements for a lot of projects which used to use utility token as way of fundraising in the past could be quite burdensome, quite complicated, require a lot of time and energy, which they better would spend for working on their products. And these are the exemptions. The tokens can be offered for free, auto-created. This can be non-fungible tokens, but again, be extremely careful with calling your token non-fungible. Most of them are not. Most of them are interchangeable from a legal perspective. I think that one of the few exemptions which are, let's say, the most common, less than 150 natural or legal persons per country, less than 1 million within 12 months, and qualified investors, which are the typical exemptions as we know them from EU prospectus regulation, which makes the other crypto assets under MiCA very similar to financial instruments in terms of how they are regulated. And these are the obligations extremely quickly. I know, will the presentation be shared with participants or not? Or yeah, it's good, because then you could just have a look and go through it. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to let you know about all of them. Major requirements are the white paper and notification, that you memorize it, that you know these are the major requirements. And all of the and of course the marketing communication should be clear, not misleading. These are, let's say, main practical things which you should remember if you or any of your projects that you're involved in intend to do utility token offering. Yes, this is about marketing communication. All of the other requirements which refer then rather to later trading, listing of these tokens. Yep. This has been it. We have some time for questions. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, under MiCA, is there a concept of reverse solicitation or something similar to that that you can come in under?
Sure. In short, reverse solicitation under MiCA is even worse than reverse solicitation under MiFID, which is unfair, but that's the way it is. And I think that was mainly also intended somehow to protect the EU consumers. What does it mean for third country services providers, mainly for CASPs, because all of those utility tokens, and they're not mainly, let's say, offered by the projects themselves, but rather offered by exchanges or launchpads which list them. Well, technically, there is almost no possibility to solicit new EU customers, just to put it in a nutshell, really. Because even talking to people at conferences can be considered reverse solicitation if you go from Switzerland to Germany. But the good news are also most of the CASP which we talk with in Switzerland, they have applied for the national authorizations in a bunch of countries just to be able that they get a license somewhere. Some of them have applied already in Liechtenstein, which has EEA access, which is part of the extended EU. So even the Swiss CASP or other third country CASPs, somehow they have already secured, let's say, their space that they will be, hopefully, we will know by the end of transition period, licensed and CASP under EU and will still list their tokens for the EU audience. Mm-hmm.
Greg.
Okay, thanks. It's complicated. So just wondering, is there regulation for meme coins, like this Trump coin and things like that?
I've had a flu recently. You can still hear it in my voice. I didn't really follow that quickly. What does it represent? Could you explain it? I mean, I followed that, but...
It's basically coin with no utility.
So then in EU, if they would like to offer it, MiCA is already there, they should then have a white paper for other crypto assets.
Yeah, hi. Those exemptions that you mentioned, are they like applied automatically, or what's the procedure exactly?
No, I would rather go to lawyers or to regulators. Let's say there are in different countries of EU there are different procedures. You go to lawyers anyway to say we are going to do this and that. Could you confirm quickly that this falls under exemption? Mm-hmm. These are already, let's say, behavior in a good faith in case a regulator comes to you. In some of the countries, like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Netherlands, there is a so-called subordination procedure. Subordination request procedure, request for no action letter, when you can write an email and ask them to confirm, like, we are going to do this and that. will this fall under the exemption in your opinion? Because I would suggest to do it if you have enough time before your token launch, because then you're completely on the safe side. Otherwise, there is no need for approval, no need for formal approval by regulator, just the white paper and notification.
So like
In
a
case of
legal
public offering, of course, if you don't use the exemptions. But otherwise, either confirmation from a lawyer or best case from a regulator, if there is a procedure like that, to send an email and receive a confirmation. Yes, it seems to fall under exemptions, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Actually,
One
as
more
per
question?
the deadline, we can proceed to the panel
Yeah.
because Janina will continue to be in the panel, and right afterwards we can also, if they have some remaining questions,
I'm still there.
also during the meetings and coffee
Yeah.
breaks, and
Yeah.
they can ask.